Welcome back to this basics video series on the Bernina 1030. This video also covers other machines in the range of Berninas, such as the 1031, the 1080, 1130, 1230 and 1260, just to name a few. I'm sure there's more that would be relevant to this video. In the previous videos I've set up the machine, prepared it for sewing and showed you how to wind a bobbin and install the bobbin case and remove the bobbin case from here. I'll also leave links down below to the other videos in the series there. This video is going to cover the top threading of the machine, and if we have a look around the back here, we place a spool thread on one of the spool holders. It doesn't really matter which one you use, but you can use the other one for winding a bobbin at the same time as sewing, or you can use the second spool pin for twin needling, which I won't go through in this video. So we go across here to this loop at the back here, this little thread guide here. We pull the thread into that, and if we come back around the front, we'll follow the thread. There's the thread guide that we just threaded there. Pull the thread down into this slot here, and the thread can go either side of this little disc here. It doesn't really matter. The only time that ever really matters is if you're doing twin needling. Again, one thread would go to the left of the disc and the other thread would go to the right of the disc there. But in this case it doesn't matter either way. So the threads come down through the channel here, and we're coming out of the channel down under this thread guide here. So literally just from right to left, hook it under this thread guide here, and then we want to bring the thread up to the take up lever here. Now you need to make sure that the take up lever is in the upper position. So if you can't see the take up lever here, just turn the machine in operating direction until the take up lever comes to the top there. It's also recommended that you have the machine turned off when you're doing this, just in case you accidentally tread on the foot controller there. And then what we do is we bring the thread in to the right hand side of the take up lever up to the top of the slot, bring the thread over towards the left, and then back down like that there to the left hand side of the take up lever. Let's get a close look there. Let's try that again. So we come up to the right of the lever, to the back, to the left, and back down again. From there we head down here towards the needle bar. Right down here there's another loop here. It's a thread guide here just above the needle. So we come in here on the left hand side around the back of that little thread guide there to get you a close look there. So you come in from the left to the right behind the guide, and then you're ready for threading the needle. And then we'll thread front to back here, just like that. Just another thing to note there, you'll notice that on the back of the, or the front actually, of the presser foot shank here, it's white, and there's a reason for that. That is to make it easier to see the eye of the needle. It provides some contrast in the background so that you can see the needle eye, and therefore making it easier to thread the needles, especially when your eyesight is changing like mine is. It's definitely getting harder to see the needle eye, but that just makes it a little bit easier to thread there as well. And because the presser foot's up, the tension has been released, so we should be able to just pull that through nicely there, and that should come through nice and smoothly. And now it's time to draw up the bobbin thread here. Now we can see here that from the previous video. I threaded the bobbin here, and I've left a tail there just hanging out the side of the little door there. It's not trapped there, so that's fine. So now it's just a matter of holding the thread gently out the back of the machine. Don't want to hold it too tight, and turn the machine in one smooth motion in operating direction, one full turn. And when the take-up lever comes back to its top position there, once it's right up there, you can then pull the top thread, and the bobbin thread should come up through the throat plate hole there. You'll see it coming up towards the needle there. And if you want to save yourself a step here, you can, if you get the likes of a pair of tweezers or something, you can grab the bobbin thread here and pull the bobbin thread and the needle thread down, so the needle thread's coming down under the presser foot and the bobbin thread is coming straight up out of the throat plate hole there, and that way you're ready basically to just place your fabric straight in there. And when you lower the presser foot to start sewing, the top thread is clamped under the presser foot there, ready to go. Just a quick note there, I was having a look through the manual, and they actually suggest a couple of ways. One way is the way that I've just shown you, where you hold the thread out to the left here. The other way that they suggest is that you can just hold the thread with your right hand and just tap the foot controller, and that will cause the machine to do one full revolution. So let's try that. Just like that, and there is your thread there, nice and easy. And then you can grab it with your right hand and position the threads under the presser foot through the little slot on the presser foot there. And if we have a look side on here, we've got another convenient little utility here. This is the little thread cutter, so you can pass the thread through the thread cutter down through the slot on the back here, just here, down through here, pull the threads are conveniently trimmed off and held securely there. So you can see the threads are conveniently held here, ready for you to just start sewing. I'll show you the other way to do this, and that just involves an extra step. So if I just bring the bobbin thread back out there, we'll start again there, like that. If we have the needle thread as it would be directly after threading the needle, we'll turn the machine over one revolution there, pull the thread, and you can grab both threads here like that, but you'll notice that the bobbin thread is coming up through the hole in the presser foot there, and there's a convenient little slit on the side of the presser foot that just allows you to bring it under like that. So that's just a little extra step, but you know, as I say, you can just drag the threads through with a pair of tweezers, or just carefully with a pair of scissors or something like that. And there we go, we're all set to go there. Just a small note with the likes of this machine, it has automatic needle positioning. You'll notice that the needle always stops in the upper position, unless I otherwise, back heel on the foot controller, in which case the needle will go into its down position there. And that way you can lift the press foot, swivel the fabric on the needle as it's in the fabric there, lower the press foot, and away you go again. And that gives you a nice square seam there. You can see there that you've got a nice square seam there. So we came up here, stopped here, and back heeled on the treadle, on the foot controller, and the needle went into its down position right on the corner here, and then I lifted the foot and swiveled the fabric around and headed down this seam here. So that makes for a nice square or sharp corner. So you can go more acute, back heel, swivel the fabric round, and we get a more acute angle there. So it really depends what you're sewing, but that's the purpose of the needle positioner. The other purpose of the needle positioner is that when you're sewing, the take-up lever here always stops in the upper position, and that's done automatically. So on a manual machine, you would normally, let's say the machine stopped with the take-up lever in the down position here, and you wanted to remove the fabric from the machine, you finished your seam, say, you would turn the machine in operating direction until the take-up lever comes right up here, and then you would lift your presser foot, remove your fabric and trim your thread. And that way, when you go to start your new seam, there's no chance of, if this is in its upper position, there's no chance of this lever, you know, coming part way up and flipping the thread out. I'll demonstrate that. So let's say we're just sewing along there. Let's say we've finished our seam there, and I'll just let's just imagine that this doesn't have a needle positioner, this machine. Let's say it's a manual, fully manual machine, and let's say the take-up lever is in this position here. You can see that the needle is actually slightly out of sync with the take-up lever, so the needle can be up to nearly its full position there, or that's its top position there, and you'll notice that the take-up lever is still in its down position. So what can happen there, if this is not right to the top here, and you take your fabric out, you cut your threads nicely there, and you're ready to start sewing again, what can happen, especially if the thread is not being held, let's just have a look at that scenario there where, say, the thread is sitting out like that and you're not holding it here. What will happen is you'll watch here, the take-up lever will come up and just pull that thread straight out of the needle eye. Like that. There's the thread, so now it's unthreaded, and you know, you've got no sewing happening there. So that's the importance of positioning the take-up lever at the top of its position. So quite often I'll see that with a manual machine, is the take-up lever could be down here somewhere, and then you go to start a new seam and bam, it just pulls the thread out. So that's really important. But on a machine like this, it's done for you. So you know, it's probably something that you would want to mention to someone who was learning on a machine like this, just to let them know that this is doing a lot of the work for them, and that on a manual machine you have to be aware of the position of this take-up lever and not necessarily the position of the needle, because when the take-up lever is at its upper position, the needle will always be out of the work. You can see it's just starting to come down again when this gets to the top position. The needle's starting to come down just slightly, but it's enough to, you know, allow you to get your fabric in and out. So there's just a little note there on needle positioning and whatnot. So yeah, that's about it for this one. I hope you found that helpful, and thank you very much for watching.